Hello and welcome to Is Eddie Jones in the same place as Stuart Lancaster. Yes, we've had a stabilising November after a bit of a poor year, and I think there are a bunch of questions out there that maybe haven't been answered for a few years now. And to join me to discuss that is Debbie. How are you doing?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you?
Not so bad, not so bad. I can see you in your as you say, in your Saracens jersey. So congratulations on the win today.
Thank you.
And
Put us top of the table. That's all good.
Top of the table, yep. And two points clear now with Exeter.
Yep.
And but at the end of the day, I was on a quick look on the Exeter fans forum. They said, look, there's only 3 games this season: home to Saracens, away to Saracens, and then the final with Saracens.
Oh, interesting perspective. That's a little bit insulting to other teams, but hey.
But both teams are, as we said, was it 14 points clear of Gloucester? So it'll be interesting anyway. But to get on to what we're going to talk about today, I just thought first off, before we get into Eddie Jones, have a quick reminder of how Stuart Lancaster went. I guess similar to Eddie Jones, he took over after a pretty poor Rugby World Cup in 2011, and then stabilised things.
He certainly did. I was there in 2012 when we beat the All Blacks.
But maybe before we even got that was a good year. Came second in the Six Nations, just losing to Wales. Had a tough tour to South Africa, to be fair. And then after losing to Australia and South Africa in the November internationals, beat the All Blacks. So started off 5th in the year, finished 5th in the year. So perhaps didn't climb the rankings, but some good results in there.
Yep, definitely. I think, and as you said to me before we started, I think people have forgotten quite a few of the positives of Stuart Lancaster's reign.
And because let's be honest, Martin Johnson had lost the England dressing room at that Rugby World Cup. We had the whole dwarf tossing evening event and ball tampering and other stuff. So yeah, just to have all that get rid of and just be talking about what was on the field was a good place to be.
Yeah, definitely.
He backed that up in 2013, came second in the Six Nations again losing to Wales, lost to New Zealand, but only 2 losses all year in a Lions year. Similar to Eddie Jones, who only lost 1 game last year, so in 2017. So another a good solid year, and lots of positivity around England at the time.
Yeah, definitely. And let's not forget, actually, the core of the team that Eddie Jones has been dealing with were the team under Stuart Lancaster as well.
Yep.
Until this autumn, I would say.
That's true. And also, we talk about player welfare and player management and stuff. He rested a whole bunch of key players who didn't get to go on that Lions tour to go to Argentina. So Chris Robshaw, for example, was rested, and Tom Wood took over the captaincy for that tour. Some good things around player welfare going on as well at that point.
Yes, and I have some thoughts on player welfare under Eddie that differ to that, certainly. Different subject, probably.
And then we hit 2014, which I guess is the same as this year in some ways. Again, Stuart Lancaster came second in the Six Nations, losing just 1 game, which was away to France. And then I think this is where, from my point of view, the wheels maybe started to fall off a bit of his campaign. But the tour to New Zealand had 3 losses. He then lost to New Zealand and South Africa in the autumn internationals, but still was ranked 4th in the year. Fourth in the world rankings. So it was hardly the same situation as is happening to Australia now, who have plummeted down, or France, who are down in who are down sort of 8th in the world rankings. He maintained a decent level, just lost to the 2 top teams at the time.
Yeah, absolutely, none too shoddy.
And then the Rugby World Cup year, which again we haven't got to with Eddie Jones yet, so we'll see how he does. But Stuart Lancaster again came second in the Six Nations, losing just to Ireland. Lost 1 game in the warm-ups, the away fixture to France, and then lost 2 games at the Rugby World Cup, Wales and Australia. So even then, in that season, he only lost 4 games, which is not if you think about that, Argentina this year have only won 2 games, and things like that. Not if you just looked at win-loss ratio, another good season from that point of view.
Absolutely.
So that's to post the positive picture on Stuart, but I thought the issues with Stuart happened in that New Zealand tour when he started putting Manu Tuolangi on the wing and Courtney Laws at 6.
Yep, I am so not a fan of players playing out of their club position. I can't even tell you how bad I think that is, and how I've been going mad with the current situation at times.
So there we go. Eddie Jones is this November decided to play Courtney Laws at 6. Does Eddie Jones have the same problem that Stuart Lancaster does, not knowing what his back 3 are, his loose trio?
Do you know, I absolutely think not. I think we have an absolute wealth of talent in our back row. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't believe it when he sent Zach Mercer away, played Wilson in a position that he doesn't normally play in, and didn't have Sam Underhill there. That was madness to me. I don't think we do have a position in that back row, a problem in that back row. I think we're going to have a problem with who we pick, how we get Billy in there. I'm a Saracens fan. I obviously am going to want to see him there. For me, I would have Wilson 6, Underhill 7 and Billy 8. I would not have someone that is actually a second row starting at 6, whether that's Courtney or whether that's Marrow. It's madness to me. You play them in the positions that they play in their clubs and the reason that they're actually in that England squad.
Totally agree. And that's, as I say, that's one of the things that I thought was where Stuart Lancaster had that, his confusion around selection, I thought, started then. And I think that's what we're seeing now, is about a year out from the Rugby World Cup, is we're seeing confusion in selection from Eddie, which is hence why we got the title of this, is Eddie in the same place as Lancaster. In that one of the key questions we had under Lancaster was always, what is our back row combination? And I think we've got a similar question with Eddie, is what is his back row combination? Not so much as in, do we have enough players there, but as in, who are the three, who does he want to pick as first choice? Yeah.
You have to pick the people that do that. That's their bread and butter. And actually, I think that Wilson was the find of this autumn internationals for me. I thought he's been amazing. But I don't. Well, actually, they played him at 7, didn't he? Not at 6. Courtney, of course, at 6. We found a 7 at last. Wales have had them all, but we seem to have found a 7 at last. They do, don't they? Wales have got endless numbers of 7s. I think probably Curry is a good stand back up for 7 as well. But don't put someone into that position that doesn't play there. It suggests to me that he doesn't think it matters at all that people play.
And I guess we saw that at the beginning of Eddie's career, or Eddie's reign. Sorry, he's had a very, very long career. His career didn't start with England, sorry. Very long reign of England, where he obviously came into it saying that Rob Shaw wasn't a 7. So instead of playing Rob Shaw, instead of playing Haskell, Rob Shaw, and Mako, not Mako, sorry, and Billy, he decided to play Rob Shaw, Haskell, and Billy, just changing the numbers on on their jerseys, which as you said,
that worked. That worked.
That did work. To be fair, I'm not sure that the actual changing numbers was what worked as such, but more just getting them to play. Eddie Jones does some things very well, and he's one of these guys. He's a dictatorial coach who gets good results for a couple of years before starting to upset people.
Oh yes, there you have it. Yeah, I mean, I was at 4 of the 5 Six Nations, and I could not have been more disappointed with what I saw. I thought they were the problem with being dictatorial is that you have players on that pitch that are not thinking for themselves. You know, the situation with the lineouts with Jamie George, that would not happen with Saracens because they would change it. And yet we're looking at the same group of players. So how did that happen? That the All Blacks work out the lineouts, we lose 5 of them. I don't know, how does that happen?
Bad line-out calling was what was happening there.
So you change
exactly. Oh, you should change it now.
Yeah,
they did change line-out callers halfway through. So did the second line-out, got the guy coming off the bench not really read the situation and call the same thing again, possibly. But yes, throwing it to 4 when the All Blacks are throwing up 3 every time is not going to work.
No. We all knew it was going to go to Marrow, so did they.
So, and I think some of the stories that came out of that camp, the England camp when Eddie first joined, things like making a special smoothie or shake or whatever it was for Haskell every morning and not telling him what it was, putting his arm round Mako and saying, "Hey, play like an Islander." You could tell that he had a way of figuring out each player's buttons and was pressing them well at that point. Now, that seems to have lost its kind of thing now, but I think that was a lot of what was going on and why he was successful initially.
I was ready. I didn't actually write the article, but I was ready to write an article about how tired I thought the players looked after the Six Nations. And then Saracens played Harlequins and Marrow was man of the match. You know, I watched Saracens week in, week out, and they were shadows of themselves. So he stopped me doing that because then Marrow plays for his club and plays an absolute storm of a game. And we've got Marrow back again. And without being in that camp, you can't know how it affects them. But, you know, we have got some fantastic rugby players in this country. And they should have done better than they did. I know they've done quite well in the autumn internationals. Shouldn't really have beat South Africa. I think South Africa probably lost that rather than we won it. The All Blacks, was Courtney offside? The ref says he was, or the ref didn't say he was. Actually, the ref barely said anything during that match. But it was a waste of money for the ref link because he barely spoke to the players. But the TMO said he was offside, so I guess that means he was. But you're not going to beat the All Blacks scoring 0 points in the second half, are you?
Not very often, no. That's right.
No. You know, I mean, to beat South Africa with 0% in their 22 is quite astonishing, really.
Absolutely, that's an amazing stat. I must admit, I missed that one. But yeah, so in this year, Eddie Jones has lost 6 games, and we've said that Stuart Lancaster's worst year, he only lost 4 games. Now there were 3 games.
Interesting, yeah.
But this just as a kind of reminder, we lost. England lost to Scotland away, France away, Ireland at home. Those 2 games to South Africa in South Africa, and then to New Zealand at home as well. So, to be fair, that worst year of Stuart Lancaster did not involve a tour overseas because it was Rugby World Cup year. But even so, 6 games is what England have lost this year. In this one, but yeah, you say player welfare there. I think and this is more kind of a Jones issue than Pat. We've already talked about Lancaster, how he rested players around the Lions tour when he could.
Yeah,
and I think there was some good player management there. What we're not seeing from Eddie, he didn't rest players on the tour to South Africa. I think he didn't feel he could after losing those 3 games. In the Six Nations, but even so, he then lost 2 games down in South Africa. And as you say, Exeter Chiefs this weekend rested all their internationals, but if you looked across all the other teams, they all played some, if not all, of their England internationals. I mean, Farrell was rested, for example.
Yeah.
As you say, Itoje was playing, and as I say, most teams played some of their England internationals. There is some player welfare, as you say, there is some player welfare issues going on, aren't there?
There are with England. When you look at the number of games that the Irish players play, it's. I mean, they are a fantastic team. There's no question about it. But their players playing far less rugby than our guys do. I mean, Jamie George and Marrow played virtually the whole 80 minutes today. They weren't short. I mean, and they were both terrific. I think Jamie was probably man of the match. But they played nearly the full 80. This is going to take its toll, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. And it was around Six Nations time that, as you say, during the Six Nations this year, you were talking about how tired the players were looking, and that's where we're going to see it again. It's not so much at this part of the season, and I know that teams like Saracens and Wasps have got a lot of injuries at the moment, so resting players is difficult when you've got a lot of injuries. However, I would have thought that Saracens' eyes should already be looking at the European competition and the end of the season, considering that their men extra have got such a cushion over the rest of the Premiership table that they both should end up with home semi-finals. So
yeah, they should really.
So they're the only two teams that can rest players. Everyone else in the Premiership is, well, if they're not looking backwards, they're aware that there's a relegation battle going on and that they're only just clear of it.
More than ever, so many teams. Amazing.
So it's going to be hard for other teams, I understand, to rest players, but the top two should be able to. So we've talked about the first big question that we had under Lancaster, which was what's his back row combination. The second big question was what's his centre combination, and
of course, we had the nonsense of Sam Burgess for Stuart Lancaster. That was a brain freeze by somebody. Not that I think he disgraced himself at all, but that was just lunacy, and no concept of what Eddie's got in mind for 12 at all.
And that's the. I say that those are two questions we still have under Eddie. What's his back row combination? What's his centre combination? Because we've had something. I think there are three centre combinations or styles even that come from Eddie. He's either got Ford, Farrell, and somebody.
Yeah.
Or he's got Farrell, Teo, Slade, which is putting your basher at 12.
Oh, yeah.
Or he's got which is Farrell, Teo, Manu Tuolangi. So you've got two bashers there.
Yeah.
And yet he's also played Ford, Farrell, Slade, where there's no bashers. He's got three playmakers. I'm confused as to what his what he's how he wants them to play. Never mind who are the best two players to do that style.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I think this you and I talking probably came from a tweet that I sent out with a photo of Brad Barrett, actually. Who I've got a big thing about the fact that we have a 36-year-old as backup at scrum half, but the 32-year-old, I think he is, who for me is probably one of the best 12s in the country, was completely discarded from England too soon. I think he won't come back into contention now at all. I know that, but I think he probably should have been in and around that team for a while.
And a player who has a reputation of being a pure defender, but who and a very good defender he is. Don't get me wrong, but he's a player who actually has a break on him that surprises teams. A bit like another player that I think is wonderful, but is Gareth Stevenson, who's a player who has a reputation for being purely a passing, kicking fly half. But what that allows him to do is when he sees a gap, he can go because no one's trying to mark him. And Brad Barrett has that kind of in his armour in the fact that because he doesn't have a reputation for doing breaks, people don't cover it. which allows him to make the occasional break. And when we come down to games, they come down to moments, and those kind of moments can win you a game. So, I think he's an underappreciated player. Totally agree with you on that one.
Definitely. So, you go. No, you go. After you.
So I think we have two questions that are the same under Eddie Jones that we had under Stuart Lancaster. So are we right in saying that he's in a similar place?
I think he probably is. I'm just hoping there's no wonder child rugby league player in the background. What might we have been had Sam Burgess hung around? That might have been interesting, mightn't it? By now, he is an outstanding rugby league player, outstanding. But you can't take someone from one code and just slot them straight into another one. You really can't. Maybe on the wing, but other than that, I think heaven knows what Eddie's doing in the centres. So, but Eddie knows.
Okay, if we're going to try and put a positive spin on what Eddie's trying to do in the centres, is that I think what he's trying to do is have a plan A and a plan B. So the plan A is Farrell, Teo, Slade. And then when, and that, I'll be honest, I've not seen much, when I see Teo, I don't see much of him being the barnstorming player that we saw kind of in the, warm-up Lions games, for example. And then when he got to Test match, he became much quieter and didn't last very long as a Lions Test 12. But what he does do is bring a lot of solidity to that line. And so during the first half, when everyone's still fresh, he solidifies things. And then in the second half, when people are tired and there's more spaces, then you get two playmakers and Manu to bash through. So I think that's the plan A, plan B thing is what he's trying to get to, but that's putting the positive spin on
it. Yes. Yeah. I mean, how fit Manu can stay, I do not know. It'll be interesting to see Manu. As I said to someone at the weekend, you've just played 60 minutes of rugby and you look up and Manu is coming towards you fresh as a daisy. That must be a dreadful thing for the opposition to be looking at, I would think.
Absolutely. And I say, so the positive spin is that actually, yes, we've got a plan A and a plan B now, which is something we complained about or many fans complain about for many teams if they don't have a plan B. So maybe England does, which would be the positive spin.
I've got I've got two other positions I've got problems with, not just that, but fullback. What's occurring at fullback? Because Elliot Daly, it really is not a fullback, is he? And heaven forbid, I actually uttered the words Mike Brown when Elliot Daly was not catching, because you give the guy his due. He's fantastic under a high ball, isn't he? Oh, and that's one of the key facets of being a fullback, and you can't fault Mike Brown with that.
Well, I think it was Sam Warburton who, when there were complaints about about Lee Halfpenny and saying that Williams should be playing there instead, and he was like, "Look, Lee Halfpenny does not make mistakes, and part of what I like in a fullback is a guy who does not make mistakes." And
yeah, it's key because you're so close to your line when you're making that. If you do make those mistakes, aren't you?
Exactly, and yeah, as you say, Mike Brown is a very dependable player.
He is.
But then again, if we kind of rewind a while back to England, Argentina, where Elliot Daly played on the wing for the very first time and got himself red carded by just doing what a centre would do on the wing rather than what a winger would do on the wing. So again, I'm not blaming him for that, but that was. There's always some blame because he was the person doing it. But what I mean is, it was because he was played out of position that he got caught in that situation. Yeah. Now we say, hey, he's one of England's best wingers. So it's one of these things that if we are going to play him at fullback, we can't judge him after a couple of games. We have to give him a a number of games to get used to it.
What happens if Watson's back fit? Because I think he goes there for me. I mean, let's not even mention Alex Good, who is the best fullback in England, but because he's just not going to get a look in, is he? But I wonder if he's waiting for Watson to come back in.
I agree, but Watson's another one of these players, like Manu, who, you hope will be there, but is he ever going to be fit again?
Yeah.
Now, a Bath fan said actually poorly wrong. He's not someone who keeps breaking. He's just someone who's going through a big injury at the moment. Now, I'm not sure how that I fully agree with that, but maybe that is what's going on.
It's a little bit like Billy, really. I think Billy's injuries are not, you begin to think, is there a weakness there, which I think there probably was for Manu. But I think for Billy, they seem to be the same things, but they're really not at all. I think it's just bad luck on his part. I mean, he's another one. Let's hope he's there, really.
Yep. And obviously when they do have the replacement there with Nathan Hughes, who plays a similar style, but it's not as well.
Not for me. Not with the other options that we've got.
No. Okay.
Not for me. I think he's fantastic for Wasps. I don't like him in an England shirt.
Okay. And I think that Lancaster, to be fair, didn't have a question at fullback because he just played Brown or Good. That we weren't questioning that one. So what was your other question then?
I do have a difficulty with the fact that we have a 36-year-old as our backup at scrum half. I had the difficulty before the Six Nations. I went to Italy for a week to watch the game in Rome, and lo and behold, Ben gets injured in the first match, and we then have got a problem for the rest of the Six Nations. Richard Wicklesworth can be fantastic, but he's just that little bit too slow now for in an international game. And there should have been someone in that camp for the last year for me.
Yes, and also you've got the other question mark is who actually it's both the pivot positions. So 9 and 10 is who is the third choice, and there is in both situations that Eddie has quite often taken two scrum halves on tour, and there isn't the depth in those two positions.
No, there isn't really. Who would be your third 10? I don't know. Actually, Alex Good played an interesting 10 today. But he's not going to get there, is he? No.
There was talk about Slade being there, but he's now. But let's be honest, he doesn't play 10 anymore. He's very much a centre nowadays, a ball playing centre.
I think he's got the skill though. That's one thing I did like actually in the early part of these autumn internationals was the fact that we had Slade and Daly there as ball players. I loved that. I think that was great.
So he is an outside option, but you wouldn't want to start him at 10. You could use him as a 10 off the bench, but not as or as cover for 10, but not as your first choice. I wouldn't have thought.
No.
But Marcus Smith was in the camp a while back, but he hasn't been in the camp for a while.
Go figure. He's a fantastic young player, isn't he? I know he gave an intercept pass last night, but he's a fantastic player. Why not have him in that camp?
Obviously, Danny Cipriani's been in and out of the camp as well. There are question marks as to the fringe selections there in both those positions.
There are, yes, and they are rather key, aren't they?
Well, yeah, very key. I mean, especially at scrum half. I mean, it's and to jettison Danny Kerr was a bit of a surprise for the Australia game.
Yeah, big surprise.
So I understand trying out players for the Japan game, but then not to have your first choice two for the Australia game was a surprise. So I think yes, we are seeing muddled thinking from Eddie as we head towards that the Rugby World Cup in a similar way that I think Stuart Lancaster's muddled thinking started a year and a half out from the Rugby World Cup. on that November tour. Sorry, on that New Zealand tour. Begins with the same letter. And that's why I think Eddie Jones is in a similar situation to Stuart Lancaster. Muddled thinking, a couple of two key questions that are the same question we've had for pretty much the best part of 8 years now. In what's the back row balance and what is the centre combination? So I would say yes. Are you a yes or a no on the?
I'm a yes. So we are in the same sort of position. I play players in their position. Yeah, and he's got to sort out the Farrell Ford situation. I mean, Owen is a 10. He's not a 12.
Yep.
I know it gets you them both on the field. And I do like George Ford. I think he has an innate talent. But of course he has only had really Owen inside him, hasn't he? As a 12, he's not overly played with any of the others. So that's going to be an interesting thought, isn't it? It's let's just hope Owen stays in one piece, really. I think he's become quite key to that team.
He's become essential, yep. And the way that Eddie's played it and the way that Eddie's given experience to other players. Totally.
Yeah.
I would also, just on a, I was wrapping things up, but on another rabbit hole, I think it's wrong to have your, whoever kicked your goals also being your captain.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. Yeah.
And this is more because of what it asks your captain. Your captain is expected to do interviews and media on top of and then here you've got a player that practices more than anyone else because they do the normal practice and then they go kicking a ball practice, and then you ask them to do extra media. When do they get downtime? And so for me, that's another poor choice. I understand that Farrell is one of the big leaders, but I wouldn't make him the media captain.
I agree with that. Yeah, and I actually also wonder if I do think Dylan Hartley's leadership is very key to this team. Would his decision making? I mean, we said no to points against New Zealand in that second half, which again Saracens wouldn't do that. They would take the points. Had we taken those points, we'd have won that game. So if you had a different person making those decisions, would he have said to Owen, you take those kicks? So I agree on the captaincy, for more than that, the reasons that you stated.
Now, there is one other thing that you could say has turned around this team. As we said, they had that poor run-up in the Six Nations. They had a poor South Africa tour, and then they've stabilised and had a good November window. And that coincides with a certain Mr. Mitchell who has joined.
Yeah.
Now, Mitchell is another dictatorial coach who gets good results for about a year and then upsets everybody in camp.
Okay, well, we'll take that then. As long as it goes over the World Cup period, that's fine.
So this might be a masterstroke in the fact that you get Mitchell in a year out, he gets his good results, and then he leaves before he upsets everybody. Yeah.
He can go to Six Nations.
Because let's be honest, he lasted a year at the USA. He lasted a year as the Bulls head coach. He's a guy who comes in and then gets some good results, but then also upsets everybody as he does it. So that's if you're looking for a ray of sunshine, England, there's the there's your ray of sunshine.
The sound of that, right?
So, Debbie, as you say, you were going to write an article about the players looking tired. Where do you post? Let everyone know where you post and do all your and they can find your pieces.
So I'm 365 Sporting Days. It's a complicated, but probably looking up my name is probably the best thing. You'll find lots of cricket there, but there will be some rugby too.
So Debbie's a 12-month a year sports writer for on both rugby and cricket, and she's also very active on Facebook and Twitter as well. So check out her stuff there. Hi, I'm Paul. Obviously, I've been Paul, the guy behind DrivingMaul. So please do subscribe. And I've just gone and clicked the wrong button because up there is now going to be a face where you can subscribe to the channel, and over here are 2 videos that YouTube think you absolutely will adore.